The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Returning from the district of Tyre, Jesus went by way of Sidon towards the Sea of Galilee, right through the Decapolis region. And they brought him a deaf man who had an impediment in his speech, and they asked him to lay his hand on him. He took him aside in private, away from the crowd, put his fingers into the man's ears, and touched his tongue with spittle. Then, looking up to heaven, he sighed, and he said to him, Ephata, that is, be opened. And his ears were opened, and the ligament of his tongue was loosened, and he spoke clearly. And Jesus ordered them to tell no one about it, but the more he insisted, the more widely they published it. Their admiration was unbounded. He has done all things well, they said. He makes the deaf hear and the dumb speak. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear friends, in the monsoon season, the frogs of Nepal, a group of them, they decided to go for a picnic into the forest. I don't know whether in this part of the world whether frogs go for picnic, but then in Nepal they do go. And they were so happy in the rain, they were jumping, playing, especially the young ones. As they got along, finally there was a huge ditch on the way, and the youngsters, many of them, those who were going, they all fell into that ditch. As soon as they fell into the ditch, they tried their best to jump out of it, but they could not. The elderly among them said, "See, you youngsters should have been careful. We are on a picnic, but we should be careful." And many of them who were trying, afterwards they gave up because they found the depth, it was so deep, so they couldn't come out. But one frog kept on trying, never gave up, kept on jumping. And lo and behold, finally, that one came out. Then all the others asked this frog which came out, what happened when all the others gave up? What kept you trying all the time to jump out? And this frog answered, "You know, I am deaf, so I thought you were encouraging me again to jump higher and higher." So that is a little story, but we have the case of a deaf man. St. Mark situates this healing episode of this deaf man as Jesus is out of Palestine. He had gone north of Galilee, especially after his confrontation with the Pharisees and scribes who refused to believe Jesus, basically because of their rigorous legalistic mentality. They were not able to listen to the Spirit because they were spiritually deaf. And after chastising them, Jesus goes to the north, and we know there Jesus hears the cry of a woman, the Syro-Phoenician woman whose daughter was possessed by an evil spirit. And we know the incident. Jesus did not respond initially, but finally when the woman says, even the dogs eat what is dropped from the table of the master. And Jesus' response was, great is your faith, and that daughter was healed. And again, today, St. Mark says Jesus was returning to Galilee, but not through the direct way, but a roundabout way he is coming. That means his mission is extended to the Gentile territory as well. He takes the road to Sidon, and further through Decapolis he comes towards Galilee. He is not taking the direct route, which should have been shorter. And there, when he is in Decapolis, the 10 cities together, mostly inhabited by non-Jews, or the Gentiles as the Bible would call them, that is the place where this man who was deaf and who had an impediment of speech is brought by his friends to Jesus. And they request Jesus to place his hands on him, or rather bless him or pray over him. But it is very interesting that Jesus takes him away from the crowd. Jesus is taking him apart from the crowd, and then he does something which we may find difficult to understand in our present times or culture. Jesus places his fingers in his ears, and also Jesus touches this man's tongue with his saliva. This both, we must understand, this healing is taking place in Decapolis, not in a Jewish territory, but on his journey back in a Gentile territory. Therefore, perhaps Jesus wants to show them that the healing which their teachers practiced was something similar. They would touch with their hands or would use some of these symbolic expressions. But what touches us is Jesus' care and concern for this man. Jesus loved this man. He had no problem touching this man. He had no difficulty to touch his tongue with his saliva. And this healing is also an anticipation that the church's mission is extended to all people, not just limited to a chosen race, not just limited to the Jewish community. Jesus' mission is for all, and this is an anticipation of the church's mission which you and me are called to carry on. And also, this miracle, this healing takes place. Jesus, after putting his finger into his ears and touching his tongue with saliva, Jesus looks up to heaven. Jesus' intimacy with the Father is manifested. He was close to the Father, and he has said on and off again and again, I have come to do the will of my Father. So his intimacy is revealed there. Then again, St. Mark says, he breathes out a sigh. That is again a sign of deep emotion over this man's pitiful condition. Then again we see in this miracle, Jesus speaks a powerful and efficacious word. Ephphatha, be open. And this word, my dear brothers and sisters, is sacramental because they effect what they symbolize. This is what sacrament is. We learn it in catechism. They effect what they symbolize, opening the deafness of this man and loosening his tongue. The healing is also an invitation that the messianic time has come. It has implications for you and for me. Thank God we are blessed with the faculties to speak and to hear. We should be always grateful to God for that. Words are powerful because they can have a lasting impact on people. Whether you speak or write, the words can change someone's mood completely, ignite a spark in them. Once the words are out, they never come back. So all those who up to the present have been deaf can now hear His word, confess that He is the Messiah, the Son of God, and go into the world to proclaim the good news in their turn, or rather in our turn. This healing miracle is a sign of the new times, the radical salvation and wholeness. Together with the people of Decapolis, we too can exclaim, He has done all things well. May that be our inspiration as we attend this Mass and participate in this Eucharist. He has done all things well.